The Eternal Series of Radio presents The Nephelium by author Nathan Parks. Copyright 2013. Narrated by author Nathan Parks. Chapter 10. Kadar closed his eyes and soaked in the rhythms of the beating trance as he stepped from the office. Music was powerful. It could heal, hurt, bring up, and destroy souls. It wrapped up his being and held him close. As an outcast, he was a survivor, one not wanted, but yet needed. Many times he could feel his humanity flooding through him and threatening to bring him crashing down into an emotional prison. He had been told that being an outcast, his existence would not be easy, and that many of his race would self-destruct because they were not strong. There were not too many left of the outcast, the descendants of Marduk's children. Kadar had never imagined that there was even a chance of the Jerusalem descendants still existing. It had been reported that they had been annihilated. Kadar decided that he would do some more research on his own. Hey, if they wanted him to be an outcast, then he would be. They didn't need to know everything he discovered. And if the price was right, maybe he would let them have some more information. He also was curious why it was so important for the Jerusalem descendants to no longer exist. What was it that scared the family so much about them? True, they had always been a thorn in the flesh of the family, but so had the rest of the children of Marduk. This is why they were considered outcasts, and their father of their clan banished to the abyss. What if we could actually bring back the clan? He asked himself. It had never even occurred to him that this may be a possibility. He had never thought of it, because the number in his clan were so few and far between. But if there were Jerusalem descendants still alive, then maybe they could build up the numbers. And his thoughts were interrupted as someone was shoved into him, causing him to spill the drink that he had brought with him from his conversation with Arioch and Adremelech. He turned to apologize to the young lady he had bumped into. I am so sorry. He didn't finish what he was going to say, but instead said, Wow, I guess of all the places I expected to meet up with you again, this wasn't one of them. The young lady looked up at him, generally showing she was as shocked as he, but also that she had several other things upon her mind. Well, I guess we were meant to be, huh? I mean, this has to be fate, just like a really poor romance movie, or maybe it would have been better for us to meet again in a dusty library. So you really are always this closed and sarcastic. Oh no, you should see how I am when I am not interested. With that, she turned and pushed her way through the crowd. Kadar watched her disappear into the rippling waves of people. He shook his head and turned in the opposite direction. Eve, on the other hand, felt the crowd pressing in on her. She never understood how people who lived behind walls could come to such a place and pretend to open up and let themselves loosen up, just to walk away with even more walls. Of course, who was she to talk? I am the wall queen, she said to no one in particular. She didn't even know what she was doing here. She knew that she needed some answers for a few things, but she wasn't even sure how to get them. I'm really losing it. I need an escape, she said under her breath. Eve held the note in her hand that made it a priority to come here tonight. She looked back down at it, and she refocused on her purpose. Megan, you need more of a wake-up call than I do. Eve had finished up earlier than normal tonight after giving her last couple of appointments over to Jackie. They were just small, trendy inks anyway, and nothing that would be considered a trademark piece. She had gotten back to her place to discover that Megan had left her a note. Eve, talked with Alfonso, and he believed a lot of what I had to say. Told me to go to see a friend of his. But as I thought more about it, I started thinking how silly it all seemed. I probably just got slipped something in my drink last night. I will be fine. I need the money anyway, so got to run. I will call you in the morning to let you know how safe I am. Love, Megan. Eve knew that Megan worked the VIP rooms, but didn't know how to go about getting into them. She wasn't even close to being a regular here, let alone a VIP. She had dressed up some tonight, knowing that if she at least looked the part of a clubber, maybe she would have a greater chance of being asked into the VIP room. Eve had carefully selected a flowing, knee-length black skirt and black boots with straps and metallic buckles. Her top was deep blood red, form-fitting, and sleeveless. She had styled her hair to hang straight, and she had actually broken down tonight and donned a fake, black light responsive tattoo that wrapped around her bicep. She almost felt a part of the crowd. Maybe that was the pull of the club. A brief escape from what one was when they were on the outside of the club walls. Eve was nearing the VIP room, and she hoped that she could put her sarcasm to rest for a moment and do something she hated to do. Charm her way in. As she pushed her way through the crowd of people toward the bouncers standing as gatekeepers, she was trying to think of something that she could say to schmooze. Nothing would come to mind. She hated this. Just as she opened up her mouth to speak, she felt a hand take a hold of her arm. She turned, feeling like slapping the intruder. "What are you doing?" "I should ask you that. You never come here. And you shouldn't be coming back." Eve pulled Megan over against the wall in order to escape the crowd. She looked into her friend's eyes and saw desperation mixed with stubbornness. Eve could tell that no matter what Megan had written down on her note, she still hadn't convinced herself that what had happened the night before was due to some drug that someone may have slipped her. You're still scared." Megan shook her head and looked away. "No, I'm fine, Eve. It was just, you're full of it and you know it." "Come on, Eve. I mean, really? Vampires and blood feasting? This is the real world, not a warped fantasy." She turned. "I have to go. I have to get back to work." "Where's this Ariok?" Megan spun around quickly and grabbed a hold of Eve by the shoulders. "Eve, I'm telling you right now to leave this all alone. Leave me alone, okay? I have to be here, but that doesn't mean I need you to watch after me, okay?" "No, it isn't okay. I want to see this guy to whom somehow you're pulled toward and who's causing you to push everyone else out of your life as if we were outcasts. What do you owe him? Is he your pimp?" Megan's eyes widened in horror and pain. "My what? My pimp?" Of all the people I would think anything like that would have come from, it wouldn't be my best friend. Eve hated herself for that one. She let it slip before she could stop it, and now she knew she couldn't take it back. "Meg, I just don't understand, and you don't need to, Eve. Just let me be." Megan turned and walked past the bouncers and through the door. Eve watched her go. She did feel like an outcast now. The door closed, and behind it was a dear friend who was in a really bad situation. And she had just made it worse. Eve had to get out of here. She felt everything was crushing down on her now. She wanted to run. She felt like she did when she was a girl. She could hear the words from her foster parents at the children's home. "You are no good. You screw everything up." She couldn't see the accusers who rushed in and out of her as she walked through the crowd back toward the entrance of the Vortex. "You are useless, Eve. There's no reason for you. Your parents didn't want you. You screwed up your friend's life. You're a failure. Give it up." Her mind began to spin. What was happening? Was it this place? She couldn't get to the door fast enough, but it was like a dream, where the faster you tried, the slower it seemed she went. Everything was swirling around her. Other accusers started swarming from the other patrons and joined in like ants coming up from a disturbed nest. She had to escape. Ariok didn't let much more than the normal crowd into his inner circle tonight. He was not in the mood for jovial activity. In fact, if he had his way, he would retreat to the sublevel of the throne room. At least he was able to revel in the fact that Adrimelech didn't know anything about his future plans. What was he supposed to do with everything that had taken place tonight? Ariok motioned for one of the dancers to come join him on the couch. Maybe some female companionship would get his mind off of everything tonight. She headed over toward him, but he could sense a hesitation within her. He found that odd, because most of the dancers were dying for his attention and would fawn over him when he gave them the opportunity. "What is your name?" he asked her as she sat down and placed his arm around her. "Jasmine." If that's not a stage name, then you can have everything you see here," he offered, motioning to the club. "Megan." "Ah, Megan. Now that is a down-home name that a guy can get used to saying. How long have you worked for me here?" "About a year." "Okay, so this was boring." This girl was as stiff as a board and looked more like someone being interrogated instead of someone having a nice conversation with another individual. Harriot needed something to get his night going. Chapter 11. Harriot didn't have to wait long. Every supernatural flare that could go off within him went off, and he jumped from the couch with a strong urgency. As he quickly looked at each clan member present, he knew that their senses were going off too. There was something wrong. Inside, but near the entrance of the vortex, Eve had stopped. She could hardly breathe. She was having an anxiety attack or something. Her mind was crashing, and she felt her body following. The accusers were wreaking havoc upon her. Then it happened. Eve couldn't see it, but she for certain could sense it. Ariok and the clan could see it. An explosion of light unseen by mortal eyes exploded around her, and the accusers screamed in agony as they fell away, many holding their eyes in pain in the blinding light, and others holding stumps of severed limbs. 2 guardians appeared in the supernatural blast. One held a compound bow that was able to shoot 2 soul arrows at once, arrows that had the ability to slice through an immortal, sending them into the abyss, the eternal damnation for them. They may not die, but they would wish they could. The other guardian stood holding a katana, and as several accusers had discovered, she knew all too well how to use it. The accusers who were able to stand their ground did so at a distance. They were the lower and less intelligent members of the family, and rarely fought unless cornered. They did know and understand the rules, though, just as any other fallen. There were places that fighting was not allowed, and the clan's gathering place or headquarters was one, just as an alliance safe house or a church was another. "You defy the rules, guardian," one of the accusers spat at the female holding the sword. "You know we are allowed access to all and any who enter our grounds. What is she to you? She's not marked by Jah." Trinita kept walking backwards as Eve, with a clearer mind, was now able to continue her exit out of this mental trap. "Oh, you're right. We got caught up with the atmosphere of such a cute little club. We actually forgot where we were," she mocked. She hoped that the other guardian was moving backwards with her. If any of the other clan hierarchy caught them here, they would have the right to hold them. They were really close to the door now, but she knew there had been enough commotion to draw down several clan members. The flash grenade had done the trick, but it also had brought a lot of attention to them. She looked around as the mortals that were so oblivious to what was taking place. Oh, what she would give sometimes to be one of them, oblivious. The band was just returning after a break and was about to start the last set for the night. Yet here around them, weapons were flying and danger was showing its head. Uh-oh. Too late. They had to go. The door burst open from the VIP rooms and a large muscular form shot out like a fast-moving locomotive. He had taken on a spiritual invisibility so that the patrons still had no idea a spiritual war was taking place, but Ariok was furious. No, livid. How dare he be rebuked by his master, and in the same night guardians break the time-honored rules of engagement. Someone would die tonight, and he was certain it would happen very soon. Trinita turned quickly to see where Eve was, just as she reached the door. The other guardian was poised at the door, bow drawn back, ready to cover her. Trinita turned back again to look at the Overlord. Oh, how she wanted Ariok. She would so enjoy slicing right through his skin and pulling out those ivory fangs in victory. But also knew they were treading on thin lines. Rules were rules, and they must be followed. She still didn't know everything because Leah had not been able to get everyone together today, but she knew enough that this girl Eve was too important to let her fall into the hands of the fallen, and especially Ariok. The Alliance didn't know what he was up to, but they had